All right, everybody, we are live. Welcome. Hopefully, I'm sounding good with all the doctors here. Get this in a better spot. And how's everybody doing today? How are we doing today? We're in Synergy Solutions. So this is remote
Well,
quantum healing, and I got Dr. George, Dr. Sasha, Dr. Vesna. How we doing over there?
hi, everybody.
We've been
Great.
chatting. We've been chatting around a little bit before we got started, and if this is your first time, we have some. This is quantum. What is quantum? What is remote healing? What is? How can you get a benefit while you're watching and tuning in? So, number one, if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. The chat is now open. So, if you have a request, a comment, a thought, please go ahead and type that in. I'll say hello real quick. And Dr. George, I'm going to call on you
Yep.
first today.
Okay.
We were talking about this interesting thing, and I'm going to show everybody at home what it looks like. This article, and I'm gonna zoom in on the headline. So bear with me 1 second. And it says empathy is proprioceptive. All right, that's the first 3 lines of the headline. So that's a big chunk of a statement in itself. So if you could help me understand help everybody understand what is proprioception. What is that word proprioception?
I know it is joint position sense, and I was kind of curious as how it fits into the concept of empathy or being an empath.
Hmm.
Um, so,
Okay, so joint motion. Okay,
okay.
all
Yeah.
right. So in the brain, there's nerve endings that sense the joint motion and joint position.
Right.
They're called mechanoreceptors,
Okay.
and those go into the brain, into a part of the brain called the cerebellum. And essentially, there's positive signals going up, meaning the joint's moving the right way, and then there's signals that go up called nociception that are informing the brain when the joint's not moving the right way. Nociception is noxious. It's toxic. It's like ugh. Think of it that way. And proprioception is positive. Proprioception is good input. And when we have too much nociception, too much negative input, that's when the body starts signaling us that there's a problem in that joint. That's the pain, that's the inflammation, that's the whole process of the breakdown because of whatever factors. Proprioception goes in and it turns on the cerebellum, like it's almost like fuel. Think the rat running on the wheel with the wire going to the light bulb, and the light bulb is powering on because of the momentum, because of the kinetic energy.
Right.
And in the way the wiring within the brain, when that cerebellum's getting that positive signal going in, it literally powers the brain to do things, and that's connected to all the other centers related to the different levels of the brain. We'll just generally say the reptilian levels of the brain, the outer layers, the conscious brain, so the frontal lobe, the occipital lobe, the different glands and organs within the brain themselves, and some of these are tied to the emotional centers and the amygdala.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, we're talking neurology right now. This is good stuff. So this is where did I learn all of this? First and foremost, of course, there was like basic anatomy in school, but there was this program I took from the ICA, International Chiropractic Association, from Dr. James Chestnut, the certification program for wellness practitioners, and we went into, at that point in my life, the most advanced neurology that I had studied. And all the data had come from neurosurgeons and neuroscientists and psychoneurologists and new waves of science called psychoneuroendoimmunology. Like wild stuff about how our brain is wired together from our emotional self to our physical self to our mental self. And that's sometimes an interesting conversation, how our mental self is different than our emotional self.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all wired together. And so I want to show this picture to everyone. Is this one. This is the image that got Synergy Solutions started.
Mm-hmm.
This one right here. So what I was just talking about, people at home are seeing all kinds of craziness on the screen, so hang on one moment. So essentially, what we're talking about with all the proprioception is how the function and the structure are optimally working or not, and based on what degree that is, it affects the chemistry, but it's also affecting well, the electromagnetics and energy systems of the body through the central nervous system. So these first three factors here are affecting this. Where Synergy Solutions is operating is it's the subtle energy fields, the levels of intention, the levels of information. And these are new areas of physics and quantum physics that are being tested, and now there's new ways of testing. So it's like the science of how to produce a study. That's the one book I'm reading right now, is someone's account of this new wave of physics called Tillerian physics. And that, and George, we've talked about it. You mentioned scalar waves. You mentioned other things. These are other frequencies that are being measured, but there's still other things that we're measuring, and that's the intention. And that's Candace McTaggart. Maybe I said that correct. Miss
Lynn McTaggart.
My goodness gracious, I have a block with that name for whatever reason. Lynn McTaggart took Dr. Tiller's work and put it into practical experimentations in real world. And so
Candace Pert, the molecules of emotion.
Well, Candace Pert, yeah, she proved the neurotransmitter biochemical connection at the cellular level and the DNA levels. So there's different pieces that are, when you layer them together, are showing you the nature of how the alignment of our physical body and the structure and how all those organs work and the chemistry and the nervous system are all playing a role back and forth with each other, but as well as these other subtle energy fields. And this is where people are talking about over the ages, chakras and auras, meridians, the sixth sense, the psychic, people would term it psychic abilities and at other levels. This is the weirdness of life that we've been taught, I think, is like, I was taught it was voodoo, is devil's work, but really it's just unknown. It looks like magic, but there's just like when the Wright brothers flew, I think people at the bar that night just didn't believe them. They're toasting and having a good time. They flew, however, like 100 yards or whatever that first time, but no one believed them because no one believed that humans could fly in a machine that weighed more than,
air.
A couple hundred pounds. That sounds like idiocracy, lunacy. However, they understood a law of aerodynamics, which was probably not called that back then, but here we are. So I see. Go ahead, George. You look like you're thinking. You want to say something there?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about the vital force or vitality, and when do you know what was vitality or vitalistic concept introduced to chiropractic? I just found this out the other day.
Okay.
It was 1908. Vitality, vitalism got into chiropractic back then. They knew they were dealing with something, but they finally named it. And that's like, what is the vital force? What is this animating force we call innate intelligence? Is that part of the ether as well? What is that? And they're vitalistic, they're innate deniers in our profession. It's like, how do you explain being alive? I cut my finger, it heals. I cut a dead guy, it doesn't heal. Not the body doing the healing. Something else is doing the healing. And so that's what we're talking about, that vital force.
Exactly. And I don't think, and Sasha and Vesta, please chime in. I don't think what we're talking about is still undefined. It's still this force, but it is a life expression we simply can observe in nature. And of course, we are nature. We observe in ourselves if we can sometimes get out of the educated mind, the mind that thinks that we know it all.
Mm-hmm.
Sasha, I showed this book image to everybody earlier, The Psychic Roots of Disease. I'm showing the audience now. And then let me pull it up for the doctor so they can see it too.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? Here it is. Okay. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. This is a real live event. So here's the book cover, and this is on Amazon. Someone sent it to me, and I wanted to buy it right away. It has 500 case studies, all kinds of information, and some wonderful commentary at the end here. If this book is accurate, this medical journalist in Germany stated, if this doctor is right, then conventional medical books will have no more value than waste paper. Like, that's a bold statement. That's a huge statement. and why I think it's important is just what you just said, Dr. George, the vitalistic conversation. Like, what is this force that we're working with? That is evident.
Yeah.
Pretty big question, isn't there? So.
Well, yeah, and isn't it interesting that the chiropractic principles, the 33 principles, it starts out, the first one is that a universal intelligence is in all matter, continually giving to it all of its properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. That's a good starting point.
I think that is the starting point. That is the starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we could probably sit and chat about that one statement. Say that again for us, George, because I think it's worth it to say it again so everyone can hear it.
Friday, Kev, here we're going to be doing that again.
I know we are. I know, and I'm actually going to be at a seminar myself, getting myself dipped in the innate. So, but go ahead.
So here's the major premise, principle number one: a universal intelligence is in all matter, continually giving to it all of its properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. That's it.
So with that being said, what I am intending in today's session is that we can listen to the wisdom of that to facilitate the expression of that for each of us that are here and now or at any time watching this. Doesn't that sound like the adjustment?
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. Does that sound like it? Dr. Sasha, Dr. Vesna? Yeah?
Sounds fine.
Yeah.
It sounds exactly like it, yeah. To allow innate to express itself.
Right, and there's a wisdom that we can, so the OD, for everyone who's new, the OD is a term we use as our diagnostic tool to identify what to do, when to do it, how to do it. Isn't what the OD communicating to that universal force within?
I think it's a deliberate way to interact with the intelligence of that field. To query the field, to ask, well, this individualized portion of universal intelligence called the innate intelligence, that living being, we can use our intellect to use these mystical waves or whatever to communicate, say, hey, what's going on? What's preventing this life force from showing up fully in this being? Where are the blockages? How to remove the blockages so that you could just shine the way you were intended to? So we have the communication with the innate, which knows all. How do I get to the innate matter? How do I get the physical matter to rearrange itself so that this innate intelligence can better express itself over the system? That sort of makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so that's an organizing force. You're developing, you're aligning one's one's mind, body, spirit, and soul to accomplish optimal function, optimal performance. And what do we And so where I want to take that is, what are we optimally performing for? And that's our heart. That's our heart's desires. That's our visions, our dreams, the things that we want to create in life, the things we want to contribute to in life. So it's like, I want to heal. Yes, but then it's a whole Russ Rosen conversation: -10 to 0 and 0 to +10.
Right.
So it's not just my body. Yes, I want my body to operate great, but that innate intelligence has a wisdom beyond just operating my physical body. It's integrating with my life around me, and perhaps I can have a vision I can create to move towards.
The purpose of the innate intelligence of a living thing is to maintain that thing in a state of active organization. So a non-living thing like the pen is organized. A living thing has a tendency to keep organized into greater and greater ability, which in a bigger sense negates the the force of entropy in the universe. We may be alive simply to keep the universe in balance. I mean, that's a much bigger picture. The day-to-day stuff is how do we deal with the physical and emotional, mental, and chemical world, and be constructive about that. Then we can weave in this whole idea. Well, our mind wants to do something while we're here. Could be that we tap into our true potential, our true purpose for being alive, and then we go about the daily business of bringing that. Like I think all of us on the call, our purpose is to be chiropractors to help connect people to make this whole situation seem better, but really more effective. Right? If we've got a 1,000-watt body running at 700 watts, we're not really having the life experience we came to the world to have. So in a really big way, we're just allowing us to be as fully being as we're supposed to be. And then all the things we do are a subset of that, I would say.
Phenomenal. I think we just had liftoff, and I know I feel a lot of vibe going. Dr. Sasha Vesna, would you like to add anything to the discussion as you've been listening in so wonderfully? Thank you.
I just really enjoyed listening to your conversation.
Excellent. Pushing the envelope forward. And Sasha, anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think I can add anything. I can't add anything really.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for spurring us earlier with some of your wonderful commentary. Okay, so let's shift gears now. We've launched off. We have some insights into how this is operating. This innate intelligence, this power of life that's within all of us. So we're going to access that now, and we're going to communicate. Each doctor has our own way of communicating with that. And then we're going to do that work. And if you want to know the details about how that actually operates, go to the link that's posted at the top of the screen, and you can begin that journey yourself. All right. So with that being said, doctors, let's begin the work. I don't have any special music for you set up right now, so we're going to get started with the session. So take a couple deep breaths in and out if you're at home. And I would suggest that you notice just what's in your physical body. Notice your feet touching the ground. Notice your seat on the chair. Notice your clothes on the skin. In fact, I would most encourage you to sense where your heart is beating and see if you can notice slowing it down as you appreciate the connection to yourself, as you appreciate the connection to life. So right now, each of the doctors are checking in what's called the surrogate, which is where we have the placeholder individually for the collective energy. And then we are having deliberate communication with that wisdom.
Hmm. Mm.
Okay, getting close to the moment. Okay, Vesna, if you're all set there, give me a thumbs
Yes.
up. Okay, good. Okay, Sasha, I'd like to start with you today. Tell me what you noticed. What you found? What you end up working with?
I was asked to work the Reiki symbol, the symbol for peace,
Symbol for peace.
and
Excellent.
it was going out to anyone who was willing to receive.
So if you're willing to receive peace, simply type in I am, or in your heart, say I am. And I think, well, I know that will do the trick because that feels really good. I feel my heart going really bright right now. So I'm willing for that. So thank you. And if you can relate, do you know the proper name for that symbol?
Shanti.
Shanti.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vesna, what did you notice today?
Well, it was sort of different. I felt different today because I'm myself having a little bit of symptoms of cold, bit of runny nose. And so I really enjoyed the session myself. I had some C7, L5, C1, and I can't remember what else I did.
Okay. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So these C1, L5, these are different areas of the spine that relate to different areas of the nervous system, different organs of the body, and different states of thinking. So thank you. And if I may comment, think of the spine and all the bones and muscles as one team. And just like a seesaw, when one area is affected, another area is affected. That's very good. You know, I noticed
Thank
that. Yeah, thank you. I noticed a different energy as well today. If I may comment, everyone knows that if they rub their foot on some carpet and then if the air conditions are just right, you could shock your doorknob or shock your friend. We are electromagnetic beings. We use MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, EKG, electroencephalograph. So we are electromagnetic, and the sun, the moon, the planets all have electromagnetic properties. Just like giant magnets moving around. There's an alignment today where the planet related to, so it's Venus. So think of what Venus qualities are, and you can look that up. You can search it. However, energetically it's stopped. It's in pause motion, or appears to be in pause motion in the sky. Really, exactly moving with us, and it brings up our thoughts and feelings around those topics. And if there's something, and I don't know what's going on in your life, but if there's something that we have interest of or desires for or passions of in any area of life, there's stress in that system, well, then it's going to get caught up at a time like that. We may feel a little sick or run down, or we may be feeling a little out of balance with the lack of love in our society right now. So that could be a stressor itself as a collective component. So pardon me for diagnosing you while we're here live.
I don't know.
Of possibilities of why you're feeling a little off today. I know today feels a little bit different for me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. George. I mean, we were talking about this when we got started today.
And yeah, it felt different for me today too. The adjustment. I started off getting in through the right kidney, hit the 4 hollow organs as one, which has been happening more often now. Brain stem adjustment, right pericardium, right lung covering, dura adjustment, the dura mater, and then from below the sphenoid. So things that I don't usually see, and then I got the download after that. So sphenoid, which used to be considered perhaps the first vertebra. So it's certainly an important bone.
I've had a couple conversations recently, with a couple different places where we're talking the sphenoid may really be considered the first bone of the spine,
Right.
or the cranial bones can be considered not separate from the spine.
Correct.
And then that to me starts to include the pelvis, and then where does it stop? So yes.
There
So
it
it's
is.
like a grand 3-dimensional Rubik's Cube. There's a process of breakdown and a process of healing / unwinding / retracing. There's different words for it. However, the body heals when we can facilitate and give it leverage and help when we're communicating in a way that honors the body, honors that life expression. So for me, when I was doing my work, there was a number of areas around the cervical, the neck, and skull areas. And then I felt like, I don't know, people saw me. Of course, people saw me. But my hands were off of the body. It was more of the perception zones. Say it that way. And then there was this experience I was having. It was, I guess maybe one of the better ways I can say it is, what we're doing is for more than just to serve or satisfy my desires of creativity in this process. This is helping. It's like this is for a bigger cause, and I felt like this energy, this ball above where I would say the head of the client would be, and just felt like it was glowing. And that was my experience. So quite interesting for me, and very rewarding as always. There's so much peace and joy coming through at the end of it all. So I want to thank everyone for participating at home, because your contribution has a powerful effect. Everyone here that's joining in, doing the work, so to speak. Thank you, Dr. Sasha, Dr. Vesna, for being here. Dr. George, of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts, any final comments, any insights you'd like to add before we close? As it always, thank you, Vesna. Thank you. And as it always is, I feel very peaceful. So oftentimes words probably are left to be said, best unsaid. Thank you for tuning in. If you're interested, if you want to connect, you want to learn more, or you want to understand a little bit more about what we're talking about, go to synergysolutionsessions.com. The link's at the top. I'll run the slide at the end so you can see it more clearly. Go there, download the free episodes. You can learn a little bit more. There's more content coming and building. We are still growing and expanding. The doctors, we are strategizing for the next step to help you in better ways. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Dr. Kevin. Yeah, Dr. George, Sasha, and Vesna here. And to everybody else who couldn't make it today, thank you for your support. And I'll see you next Wednesday at noon Eastern Time for the Synergy Solutions Sessions. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Bye.